The diamond on her finger felt like a lead weight, and the vows she was about to take were as hollow as the shell company she'd registered in my family's name. Everyone in the ballroom saw a perfect bride. I saw a master thief running out of time. My name is Arjun, and for the last 3 years, I have been living a life that everyone else envied. To the outside world, to our neighbors, our extended family, and the social circle that keeps score of who is winning at life, I was the man who had everything. I had the successful career in logistics, the respectable family name, and the perfect fiancée. Finance was everything they wanted for me. She was sharp, sophisticated, and carried herself with a polished elegance that made my mother's eyes light up at every Sunday brunch. She moved through life with a calculated grace, navigating conversations with my father's business associates, as if she had been born into the boardroom. "She's a keeper, Arjun," my father would say, clapping a heavy hand on my shoulder after she departed. "She understands the value of a name. She's the anchor this family needs to secure the legacy." They didn't see what I saw. They didn't see the way her eyes glazed over whenever I talked about my own passions, or how she checked her watch the second the social pleasantries ended. But none of that mattered. We were both performing a script. I was 32, and my grandfather's will was a ghost that haunted every major decision of my adult life. The ancestral estate, a sprawling, centuries-old manor that sat on the edge of the valley, was the crown jewel of our family history. It wasn't just a house, it was a testament to who we were. But the clause was ironclad. The estate shall transfer to the heir only upon his marriage to a partner of equal standing and character, ensuring the preservation of the lineage. I wasn't marrying for love. I was marrying for the bricks and mortar of my ancestors. I remember the day I proposed. It wasn't under the stars, and it wasn't on bended knee in a moment of overwhelming affection. We were in her high-rise office, the city lights shimmering behind her like a backdrop in a movie. I handed her the ring, a family heirloom, and she accepted it with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Finally," she had murmured. At the time, I thought she meant finally settling down. I was the naive one. She meant finally being one step closer to the assets she coveted, the status she craved, and the life she was already planning to live with someone else. I was living in a golden cage, and for a long time, I was so blinded by the shine of the bars that I didn't realize I was the one who had locked the door for me inside. I thought I was the cold, calculating one, the man who would trade his heart for property. I was wrong. I was just the mark. I work in logistics, a world defined by timelines, transit points, and the cold reality of supply chains. Finance, on the other hand, lived in the realm of high-stakes investments, where fortunes were made and lost on a whispered tip. I rarely stepped foot in her office, preferring the sanctuary of my own warehouse floor. But for the 6 months leading up to the wedding, I found myself making excuses to pick her up, driven by a strange, creeping unease I couldn't quite articulate. That was how I met Vikram. He was the fun one. While the rest of the finance floor was a hive of intense, muted whispers and rapid-fire typing, Vikram was the center of gravity. He was the one ordering the expensive midday lattes, the one whose desk was always surrounded by laughter. He had a disarming charisma, the kind that made you feel like you were his best friend within 5 minutes of meeting him. The first time I met him, he was leaning against Finance's desk mid-joke. The sound of her laughter hit me before I even rounded the partition. It was a high, genuine sound, wild and unbridled, that I had never, not once, heard in the privacy of our own home. When she saw me, the sound didn't just fade, it vanished. It was like a switch had been flipped. "Arjun," she said. her voice instantly dropping into that professional, modulated tone she saved for my parents. "You're early." "Just finished a project," I lied, feeling like an intruder in her space. Vikram stood up, his smile easy and practiced. "The man of the hour. We were just talking about the wedding, Arjun. Everything's set." "Everything is proceeding," I replied, watching him. The dynamic was subtle, but it was there, hovering in the air like ozone before a storm. It was in the way Vikram's hand lingered a fraction of a second too long on the back of her chair. It was in the way finance straightened her blazer the moment she looked at him, an unconscious adjustment of her armor. It wasn't until a rainy Tuesday in February that the suspicion hardened into a terrifying, icy certainty. Finance had come home late, smelling of expensive perfume and the faint, metallic scent of rain. She went straight to the shower, leaving her laptop open on the kitchen island. I wasn't looking for trouble. I truly wasn't. But when a notification chirped, my eyes betrayed me. It was a pop-up from an encrypted messaging app. The screen showed a photo of them, clearly taken from a weekend trip that finance had told me was a corporate retreat in Singapore. They were in a secluded cabin, bundled in thick wool sweaters, holding mugs of coffee. Their foreheads were pressed together, their eyes closed in a way that screamed intimacy. It wasn't the look of colleagues. It wasn't even the look of friends. It was the look of two people who had built a world together that had no room for anyone else. The text below it, sent from Vikram just moments ago, read, "Only a few more weeks, love. Once the deed is signed and the trust is settled, we can finally stop pretending for his inheritance. It's almost over." I stood there in the silence of my own kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator suddenly sounding like a roar. The ancestral home, the family name, the legacy, it all felt like ash in my mouth. I wasn't just a husband-to-be. I was an obstacle in their path to wealth. I was the bridge they needed to cross to get to the treasure on the other side. And the most chilling part? They weren't just stealing my heart. They were looting my future. I closed the laptop, my hand steady with a cold, hollow rage. I didn't scream. I didn't break the glass. I just walked into the living room, sat in the dark, and began to think. The realization didn't cause me to shatter. Instead, it did something far more dangerous. It calcified my resolve. I sat in the dark living room, the city lights of the skyline blurring through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and felt the last vestiges of my nice guy persona evaporate. I was not just an heir in waiting. I was a strategist. If they wanted to play a high-stakes game for my family's legacy, they had made the fatal error of forgetting that I am a man of logistics. I understand systems, I understand dependencies, and most importantly, I understand how to break a chain. I didn't confront her. Not that night. Not the next day. I began to move in the shadows. I installed a silent monitoring protocol on our home network, something she, for all her financial brilliance, would never think to look for. I started losing my phone during our weekends so I could justify staying back at the apartment, feigning exhaustion, while she went to late-night team briefings. The data was damning. They weren't just plotting to leave. They were plotting to leave with the contents of the trust. One watched the digital trail unfold. They were siphoning off consulting fees into a shell corporation they'd registered under a variation of my own grandfather's company name. It was clever. It was greedy. It was amateur. The hardest part wasn't the theft. It was the performance. I had to look her in the eye every morning and ask about her day. I had to endure the dinners where she would talk about our future house with a tone of voice that was practically saccharine, knowing full well she and Vikram had already scouted a penthouse in the city where they intended to move the moment the inheritance hit my account. "You seem distant, Arjun," she said one evening over dinner. She was wearing the necklace my mother had gifted her, a teardrop diamond that had been in our family for 3 generations. It looked like a trophy on her neck. Just thinking about the wedding, I lied, my voice steady, my heart a cold stone. "And the estate. I want everything to be perfect for when we finally take possession." She smiled then, a genuine smile this time. It was the smile of a shark that had just smelled blood in the water. "It will be, darling. I promise." I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized that she actually pitied me. She thought I was a spineless heir who needed her intellect to manage his own fortune. She thought she was the puppet master, pulling my strings, guiding me toward a marriage that would serve as her golden parachute. She didn't know that I had already hired a forensic accountant. I didn't need the police, yet. I needed a trail. I needed to let them think they were inches away from the finish line, just close enough to reach out and grab the prize, so that when I pulled the rug out from under them, the fall would be absolute. The countdown to the wedding was 3 weeks away. 3 weeks to turn the inheritance into a weapon. 3 weeks to dismantle their lives, one transaction at a time. The countdown had begun. With exactly 21 days until the wedding, the air in our apartment felt heavy with the weight of unsaid things. Every time finance walked through the door, the atmosphere shifted. She was calculating, always checking her phone, her eyes constantly scanning for any sign that I had deviated from the script of the oblivious heir. To truly pull the rug out, I needed to understand the mechanics of their greed. I spent my nights in my study, or what I told her was my study, mapping out their movements. It was a classic embezzlement setup, disguised as legitimate investment consulting fees linked to the family estate's holding company. I had to be meticulous. If I acted too early, they would vanish. If I acted too late, the funds would be laundered beyond recovery. I started using a private, secure server to mirror every transaction they made. I wasn't just watching, I was documenting the flow of capital, tracking how they diverted funds from the estate's initial escrow accounts into their personal offshore accounts. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. They weren't just stealing money. They were systematically bankrupting my family's legacy before I even inherited it. They were stripping the assets, turning them into liquid cash to fuel their escape. The turning point came when I discovered a hidden folder on the shared server they used for work. It wasn't just financial data. It was a digital dossier they had compiled on me. They had documented every one of my weaknesses, my past failures, and even my medical records. They had mapped out a post-marriage exit strategy, a fake crisis that would lead to a quick divorce, allowing finance to claim a hefty settlement while walking away with the embezzled millions. I looked at the screen, my reflection ghosting over their plans for my destruction. Trigger the liquidity crisis. Arjun will be too distracted by family pressure to notice the account reconciliation. Once the transfer clears on the wedding night, the assets are ours. The irony was not lost on me. They thought they were the architects of this catastrophe. They didn't realize that in my world of logistics, once you identify a bottleneck, you don't just clear it. You reroute the entire supply chain. I didn't just have evidence of an affair anymore. I had a roadmap to their prison sentences. I spent the next few days feeding them exactly what they wanted to see, my complete lack of awareness. I acted nervous about the wedding. I played the part of the overwhelmed future heir, and I even consulted finance on how to move certain assets into our joint accounts. I watched her suppress a smug smile as she guided me toward the very accounts she intended to drain. She was so convinced of her own brilliance that she didn't see the trap closing around her. The finish line was in sight, but for them, it wasn't the altar, it was a cell. The wedding day was a masterpiece of cold, clinical precision. The venue, a sprawling estate that had been in my family for generations, was dressed in white lilies and heavy silk, the kind of opulence that masked the rot underneath. My parents were beaming, moving through the crowd with the kind of pride that only comes from securing a dynasty. Finance looked radiant, the very picture of the perfect, loyal partner. She caught my eye from across the room. She leaned in, whispering into her bouquet, likely sending a final, coded message to Vikram, who was standing near the back, looking far too comfortable for a mere colleague. I stood at the altar, the weight of the thick, embossed leather folder in my breast pocket pressing against my heart. It contained everything: the bank statements, the shell company registrations, the intercepted emails, and the digital logs of the millions they had siphoned from the estate's trust. When the priest began the ceremony, I didn't wait for the "speak now" or "forever hold your peace" cue. I stepped forward, not toward the altar, but toward the microphone at the front of the stage. "Today," I began, my voice echoing through the silent, gilded ballroom, "is meant to be a union of two families, a celebration of legacy and trust." I saw Finance stiffen. Her smile flickered, a momentary tremor of genuine panic crossing her features. Vikram, standing by the entrance, took a half-step forward, but I continued, pulling the folder from my pocket and letting it drop onto the table behind me with a heavy, final thud. There is no trust here, only theft. The room erupted into a low, confused murmur. I didn't care about the guests. I looked directly at Finance. I know about the cabin, Finance. I know about the shell companies. And I know that this wedding was never about the marriage. It was about the liquidation. I gestured to the folder. "Every transaction, every lie, every dollar you've siphoned from my family's future is documented there. My lawyers are already at the precinct. The assets have been frozen, and the authorities are waiting for you at the gate." The silence that followed was absolute. Her parents, who had been sitting in the front row, stood up, their faces pale. Her mother gasped, clutching her husband's arm. They were good, honest people who had been sold the same lie I had, that their daughter was a success story in the making. They looked at me, then at their daughter, the betrayal dawning on them in a way that was far more painful than anything I had felt. Her father's shoulders slumped, his eyes filling with a mixture of shame and fury as he realized he didn't know the woman he had raised. Finance turned, her face a mask of cold, hard glass. But there was no escape. She looked toward the door, then back at me, realizing the exit was blocked. I didn't scream. I didn't weep. I simply turned to my stunned parents, my voice steady. "The wedding is over. The legacy is safe." As the security detail I had hired walked in to escort them away, I didn't look back. I walked out of the ballroom, out of the estate, and into the cool evening air. The golden cage was gone. For the first time in years, the property, the name, and the future were entirely, unequivocally mine, and I was finally free to decide what to do with them.